Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr.Lamba's Awakening Call. The world is already reeling under COVID, Ukraine war, and various other issues, including climate change. And at such a time, the Speaker of US Congress, House of Representatives, who is third in line of succession, visits Taiwan, deepening the rupture between US and China. Many times politicians take decisions which are momentous and cause immense harm to the society. As a matter of fact, the fortunes of any country are made or unmade by the decisions. Hitler would have won the war had he not invaded Russia, but had invaded Britain at that time. But he made a mistake, and voila, Nazism is a banned word today through the world. As a matter of fact, people are not sure why she visited. Yesterday when I said that I'm going to talk about it, Mr. Singh Jaspal of Mississauga said, was it appropriate? And why did she go? Well, it was not. That's why I call it reckless. And not everybody is sure why she went, but then I can tell you, she went purely for very selfish reasons. She went there for parochial interest, not for the national interest. And she has in fact provoked the hornet's nest and raised China, which claims to be self-governing island, as its territory. It doesn't regard Taiwan as a separate country. And by her action, Nancy Pelosi has deepened the rupture between the world's two most powerful countries. And as a matter of fact, by her action, the very existence of Taiwan is jeopardized. She went there and immediately multiple missiles were fired surrounding Taiwan, and a series of the huge military drills around the world. And then, not only that, the Chinese ambassador informed USA that all talks and cooperation on key issues, including climate change, anti-drug efforts, and military talks, are ending. It was terrible for USA because the world is already reeling under different issues which are not being resolved. And just today morning, the news came that China has purchased an open port in Solomon Island, which is going to be a problem for Australia. Hitting at Australia means hitting at Quad, in which India also comes. Now, why did Pelosi go there? We know that Pelosi is a fervent critic of China's human rights. And she says that she is for democracy. But the 82-year-old Nancy Pelosi may be suffering from short sight, mental short sight, is basically rushing for the last hurrah before the November midterm elections. And it's every likelihood, 97% chances are that she will lose the speakership because the Democrats will lose the majority in the House. And she wanted to do something. Her televised meetings in Taiwan, sure to have registered in Beijing, appears to me to be a vanity subject. It was pure vanity. And to tell Americans, look here, I'm somebody. As a matter of fact, Thomas Friedman, the New York Times columnist, very correctly called her adventure as utterly reckless, dangerous, irresponsible, and it is basically made Taiwan more insecure, not more secure. That's the problem. She has defeated the very purpose for which she went. And the consequences will include the USA would be plunged into indirect conflict with a nuclear armed Russia and nuclear armed China at the same time without the support of European allies in the latter. Because Europe doesn't want to fight either China or Russia. Already Europe is suffering because of the Russian conflict in Ukraine and their action, whereby all the fuel supplies and the gas supplies to Europe are stopped, and there's going to be trillions of dollars of loss to those countries. Biden has publicly admitted that US military felt that trip was not a good idea right now. And especially when President Xi is preparing to secure a third term at the CCP to be held in November. You are just adding fuel to the fire. And Biden admits that the military said don't go, diplomats said don't go, Europe said don't go, but she still went. And last month, Biden, in his usual verbal style, had said, and he reminded Xi about America's separation of powers, and he could not prevent the Speaker or other members of the Congress traveling where they wish. That's all bullshit. Because both belong to the Democratic Party, and he could have told her, no, you are not going. And not only that, he provided her with a military escort. Let's not forget, Biden and Pelosi are close allies from the same political party. And this is a different scenario from 1997, when Democratic president was Bill Clinton and Republican speaker was Newt Gingrich. And Newt Gingrich went to Taiwan. No, Pelosi's second in line of presidency after Biden is Kamala, and after Kamala is Pelosi. So she flew into Ireland on a military aircraft with all the government support, and Biden says he couldn't help it. It was perhaps telling Biden, and the Democrats remained mostly silent, that the speaker's loudest cheerleaders are right-wing Republicans and China hawks. Some commentators believe that a superpower conflict between US and China would make Taiwan issue conflict inevitable. She may have saved a few years of the forecast, but it cannot be denied that Biden has supplied some of the firepower. For months, President has shown doubts of America's commitment to one China policy, under which the US recognizes the formal ties with Taiwan. Now, till Biden, no president said that Taiwan is an independent country. They said no, it's a part of China, but it would go to China in a different manner. As a matter of fact, till Nixon went to China, they recognized Taiwan as the legitimate government of China. And in May, when Biden was asked, would US get military involved to defend Taiwan, he replied very forcefully, yes, that's a commitment we made. Now, by law, America is bound to give Taiwan arms to defend itself. But it has never promised to intervene militarily. And that delicate balance has helped to deter Taiwan from declaring full independence. Because the day it declares full independence, there will be a full-scale invasion from China. And the worry is that the Biden is supplanting this long-standing portion of strategic ambiguity with strategic confusion. Now, There's a lack of clarity, lack of consistency, lack of discipline, and even lack of coherency in the action of Biden and Pelosi. The Biden administration continues to say that USA has a one China policy, that USA does not support Taiwan's independence, but then it does the different thing. With China's perspective, looks like you are slicing the salami. They are not accepting it. So Speaker Pelosi going to Taiwan, it may not cross the red line by itself, but Chinese see a slippery slope, and then the president is talking at sixes and sevens in very confusing ways himself. So you can see the arguments on both sides. But it was an ill-timed gesture, as Brookings Institute senior fellow Bill Galston, we had a talking 3 days back, and Bill told me, and he's a former policy advisor to Clinton, he says that this is very ill-timed. And once the issue was joined, allowing China to bully her out of the trip would have really been a bad sign for the region. Now, another person, Larry Diamond, a senior fellow of Hoover Institute think tank, he sent an email. And that is a very interesting email. I like to read that email to you. And this email is, Pelosi wanted to convey our commitment and resolve. I respect her for that. However, I still think that trip was a mistake. It provoked a serious escalation of Beijing's military intimidation without revealing anything to make Taiwan more secure. What Taiwan really needs is more military assistance. A large number of small, mobile, survivable lethal weapons like anti-ship missiles. To paraphrase Zelensky, they don't need more visits, they need weapons. And they have got a lot to do themselves and prepare for a possible attack. Now with that thing, can you imagine that the Speaker of the House, who is second in line for the presidency, should go? No. The aim was only to delude the American voters and make them feel convinced that we are the only people who can stand against China. As a matter of fact, they wanted to throw a spanner in Trump's approach. Trump has always been anti-China and has been very vocal about it. He was instrumental in ensuring that a lot many American companies leave China, which is good for India, good for Vietnam, good for Bangladesh. And now, instead of standing by what they have been doing all the last time, they immediately go in a very confusing 180-degree turnaround and cause the American voter to be confused, cause Taiwan to be confused, cause disruption in Pacific region. Today Philippines is worried and fighting is ongoing in the island in some parts, and America has to assure Philippines that it will come to their aid. But calling America for aid is a problem by itself. Whichever country has called American military for help has found itself in a worse situation. So, Philippines is suffering. Taiwan already has been surrounded by live fire, and who knows when it might convert into a full-fledged invasion. And in case Taiwan declares its independence unilaterally, then of course you can be sure that it would not take more than a few hours for China to invade Taiwan. And if China invades Taiwan, American destroyers which are already placed near Okinawa, near Philippines, they'll rush there. And the Next step would be a war. War between USA and nuclear powered China. Now, if you remember on Thursday, I had talked about how a nuclear war, if 500 bombs are dropped, and then in this context, let me add, Russia is going to jump into the fray because Russia and China combined are a formidable force which USA cannot defeat. So that's a disaster which is staring humanity. That is something nightmarish, ghoulish, deadly. And the complete responsibility for this lies with Nancy Pelosi. Maybe at the age of 82, she is losing her marbles like Biden is. But their losing of marble means a tragedy, a calamity for the humankind. Millions of people might die, billions. The world might come to an end. Is it worth? It's not. Was it desirable? It was not. It was absolutely reckless, ill-timed, ill-thought of, ill-conceived. An ill-conceived child would never be a normal child. Let's be very clear. This action of us has deepened the divide. It has deepened the wounds. It's not a healing touch. It's a killing touch. Killing for the countries involved and killing for the whole humanity. I shudder what might happen. I hope sense dawns. Taiwan doesn't declare independence, so China doesn't invade. And things would smoothen, but not in these two countries in the near future. Thank you.